Chinese is the hardest language in the world to learn. So what would happen if I tried to learn enough that I could pass a real-life exam only studying in VR with just 30 days? My current Chinese speaking ability is a bit like my hairline. It's that of an infant, maybe a toddler at best. And the app I'll be using to track my adventure is called Noun Town. And 30 days from now, I will be sitting the HSK Level 1 Chinese Proficiency Test. So Noun Town is basically your own personal language learning world. Here you can select from 8 different languages, and all of the color has disappeared from the world. It's your job to interact with the various objects and NPCs, and once you successfully do, the color will return and you will unlock more of the islands. When you log in, you have this checklist on your Lexi band, and the idea is that you should head off to one of the locations like the cafe, the farm, or the supermarket, and here you'll be allowed to learn a maximum of 5 new words per game day. And a game day is 4 hours, so you don't overburden yourself with new information. You then upload these words in a small test, and these words will now start to appear in the revision portal or games around the islands. Once you've done that, you can take a quick lesson where you watch 2 NPCs interact with each other using some of the words you've just learned in conversation. You can even take over the role of one of them. And now we get to the fun part, which is learning rush. And so this is where NPCs will come to the counter and order something from the words you've just learned. You have to spin around, find that item, and put it on the tray in front of them while the timer counts down. Or if you're like me, you can just biff it at their head. And it's just so funny when some old auntie comes in for a sandwich and you just send it straight at her dome. But it's fantastic for word recognition and reinforcing those words that you've just learned. And then finally, I like to finish up by talking to an islander, and here you just have to ask them a noun question and you're done. But if you're feeling up for it, then there are other little games you can play like whack-a-mole or treasure hunt. The next time you log in, you'll be revising some of those words you just learned from the previous session, and you just rinse and repeat. The whole thing normally only takes me about 15 minutes to get through per day, and after week 1, I had tackled the cafe and basically finished it. And so while week 1 was over and I was feeling pretty happy with my progress, little did I know that week 2 was going to be the hardest of them all. Steam has it at about 90% and Oculus at a 4 out of 5, both of which are pretty positive, and the negative reviews are mostly around little bugs that crop up, but for the majority there's a developer reply. But for me personally, I guess I always find week 2 the hardest when trying to build a new habit. You know, the rush and excitement is starting to wear off, but you haven't really developed any new real skills yet. And I'll admit, maybe I missed a couple of days this week. I think the safety net of having 3 weeks to go is probably not a good thing for me, especially since I hold a PhD in procrastination, and this is also where I started to find one potential flaw with the VR learning. Now, I know for the test coming up that I'm expected to know a wide range of words from family to animal to work and school, but I've basically spent the first half of my time just learning things and items I could find in a cafe. And so while I think the location-based learning is really cool, if I'm going to have any chance of passing this test, I need to start exploring other areas ASAP. So I got 5 sessions done this week, not my best effort. In terms of immersion, compared to other language learning methods like online courses, classes, and apps like Duolingo, I think it's night and day. Honestly, Noun Town is insane. Being in a virtual world that you can interact with is just so much better, so much more fun. And me personally, on my journey, with just 2 weeks to go, I had a real wake-up call, so I got busy and headed to the farm, supermarket, and was just talking to any NPC in sight to learn as much general words and nouns as I could. Now, in terms of replayability, I think this will really depend on you and how committed you are to learning a language. Now, even though the Steam reviews were very positive, the vast majority of them only have a couple hours of gameplay. And for me personally, after sitting this exam, not having something to work towards, I'm ashamed to say I haven't really used it other than recording these clips for these videos. But back to the challenge, I started playing all of the general games like whack-a-mole and treasure hunt, which really helped drive those words into my memory. After the final week was finished, I had unlocked over 140 new words, 4 locations, and even though I'd still mispronounced a lot of words and stood no chance against characters, I felt like I had made good progress and was actually learning Chinese. So after finishing my exam, I remember coming out and feeling pretty confident. There were definitely some words I did not know, and from VR study, I was definitely missing out on some of the words I was expected to know. Like for example, there was a picture of someone dancing and that just never came up. So I think if you were serious about learning a language, you probably wouldn't use this as your primary method. I think ideally you'd either do private or group lessons and then add this as a supplementary source to assist with your language learning. But it's definitely worth picking up if you are. It took almost 2 months for these results to come out, so this video actually took over 4 months to make. And if you're still watching this, then why not hit that subscribe button? But we had done it. I was able to learn enough Chinese using VR in 30 days to not only pass the HSK Level 1 exam, but ace it with only a few questions wrong. And while it was tough, it definitely wasn't as tough as my other challenge to try and burn 10,000 calories in VR. So don't miss out on that video right here.